Welcome to week 9 of our prep football video previews. I'm Gaston, Gazette sports editor, joined by Richard Walker, Philip Gardner. We'll go over a few matchups heading into this week of the regular season. First and foremost, South Point Forest View, obviously big game at the top of the Big South standings. Both teams undefeated in the league, both teams with one loss overall. Richard, start off with this one. This matchup, obviously, what do you think about it?
Well, certainly South Point has owned the series, and if you're a Forest View fan, there's two numbers that kind of stick out in the history of the school that are they've become kind of albatrosses for the program is 0-10 against South Point, 0-8 in the playoffs. They certainly have a chance to take care of one of those this week. Well, South Point certainly look like they've got as good a chance as they've had dating back to the double overtime game back in 2001. But we've seen this before where Forest View started the season fast. Then South Point will beat them, and they kind of skid down to the finish. I'm sure that's not. They were trying to avoid that this season. South Point, it's kind of the same as it ever was situation with them. They rolled along. I mean, ironically, you talked about them both having lost one game, both to Clover, South Carolina. So they've played very similar type schedule. I was impressed with Forest View beating Crest a couple of weeks ago, and I've seen South Point a few times. So I expect this to be a real intense game. But the irony is, except for that game in 2001. It appears that one or the other, well, certainly in this case South Point all the time, has kind of really taken the momentum of the game and taken it to Forest View, and the score has not indicated what I would think would be the closeness of talent of the two teams. It'll be interesting to see if that changes this season.
Forest View just has to get over the hump. I mean, last year it was a similar circumstance. They came in 5-2, red hot. They'd won 5 in a row, actually. They thought this is our chance to finally beat South Point. What happened? South Point won 35-0. And I'm afraid we could be headed down that same road if Forest View is not really careful in this game. I think the big thing is they got to be two-dimensional. You were talking about their passing game a few weeks ago. You were real impressed with Jonathan White in the passing game. I think they've got to open that up a little bit because South Point's going to really try to shut down the run. And South Point's defense has been very good at times, so I think Forest View has to be really on top of his game this week.
Another big game, switching over to the Mega 7 3A, 4A. East Gaston hosting Olympic, both of them 3A schools in a split league. Olympic 2-1 in the league, East Gaston 2-1. Phil, talk about that a little bit and the importance of that game.
Well, it's real important. I was talking with Coach Tippett at East Gaston over the weekend, and he said, you know what, even though we lost last week to Catholic, one of our goals is still available, and that is to win a conference championship. Since they're only one game behind, and then they play the only undefeated team in the conference this week, Olympic. This is their chance to get back into it. And he wasn't totally discouraged with the way they played last week. They were able to move the ball somewhat, but it was just some early mistakes, some fumbles that allowed Catholic a short field and allowed them to get an early lead last week. So it's a real important game. It's going to be their first home game in this conference, so they're looking forward to getting back home and trying to get back in the win column.
And switching leagues again to the Southern Piedmont 1A, 2A, East Lincoln, obviously two county rivals, two teams that have been in contention in the last few years. Richard, that game, talk about that one a little bit.
This is one of the best rivalries around in our area. They've played 4 times, 2 times apiece the last 2 years. And in fact, Coach Bass, after they played Bessemer City last week, was joking about, well, I guess this is the first of our 2-game series with Lincoln coming up because they've played them in the playoffs.
Right.
And then he made the comment, he says, well, if I knew I was going to play Lincoln in the 3rd or 4th round of the playoffs again, I'd take that tomorrow. So
right.
Both teams come in. It appears to me Lincoln probably healthier. Josh Wilson got hurt last week. Don't know what his status would be moving forward. They had some other guys that were injured. I think he said there were 8 players that missed practice time due to illness or injury a week ago. And the Bessemer City game, I'm telling you, was a real physical 1A, 2A conference football game. They both really knocked heads. And I'm sure on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, a lot of guys visiting the rehab specialists and the doctors and the ankle tapers and that kind of people from both sides. But, you know, interesting that Lincoln went through this early in the year when they lost their starting quarterback. So it's and also, you know, East Lincoln and Lincoln, they've played each other every year, I believe, since 74 or 5, whenever Lincoln left the old Western North Carolina High School Activities Association. It's a huge rivalry. People in that county choose sides over it. You know, it's one of those feel-good rivalries because they really seem to have a genuine amount of respect for one another. In fact, the first time I believe East Lincoln won was when Craig Kaiser, who is now a Lincoln assistant, was coaching at East Lincoln. So, you know, the coaching staffs know each other very well. I think East Lincoln's the bigger team. Lincoln may have a little bit more team speed, but I expect that to really be a terrific battle. And if you're East Lincoln and you can win this week, you will have already beaten Bessemer City and Lincoln, and you're almost home free the rest of the way, although clearly you do have to play the other games. But there's no doubt that East Lincoln will be favored against Cherryville, North Lincoln, and West Lincoln to close out the rest of their schedule. So East Lincoln has a chance really to kind of put an end, in some respects, to that conference race after 2 games.
That'll wrap it up for this week. Look for all of our prep coverage at GastonGazette.com and in print all week long. And we'll see you next week on the video.